We're going to begin in about 2 minutes. If you can start finding your seats. Okay, I've gotten a thumbs up from the boss. I'm Dr. Bob Mortlock. Welcome on behalf of the Acquisition Research Program. I'd like to welcome you to the 21st Annual Acquisition Research Symposium. This is our second hybrid event that combines the advantages of both in resident here in person and a hybrid event. This year we have over 700 registered participants, including senior leaders, acquisition professionals, warfighters, academia, all from industry, from academia, and from NPS. And they will share their research and perspectives, which highlights the impact of applied research in the different areas of the acquisition sciences, all focused on the integration of emerging technologies into warfighting systems and delivering capability to the hands of our warfighters at the speed and the scale of relevance. I encourage you over the next 2 days to engage with the senior leaders and the policymakers and the warfighters and the researchers, build relationships, collaborations, partnerships to tackle these hard challenges that we face in acquisition sciences. Trust and teamwork would be critical, along with an acknowledgement that it's not just enough to be a technical expert in your area of expertise, but you also must be an expert in the acquisition sciences. Collectively, as a team, we can and we do make a difference to the warfight. At NPS, for example, with graduate education, that means offering student warriors, scholar warriors, as Admiral Rondeau likes to refer to our students, scholar warriors and leaders, the opportunity to take acquisition sciences classes in their curriculum, expanding the knowledge base and the education level within the acquisition sciences domain to the same levels as the traditional engineering and technical expertise areas. I'd like to recognize the generous support of the Office of the Secretary of the Navy for Research, Development and Acquisition, ASN RDA, and the Navy Director of Acquisition Talent Management and PEO IWS. This year's symposium is supported also by the Naval Warfare Studies Institute and the NPS Foundation. I'd like to highlight that the refreshments, the lunches, the student poster session food tonight is all compliments of the NPS Foundation. This year's symposium is a result of a 6-month planning effort by the ARP team, led by the ARP PM, Carrie Schaefer, the ARP Communications Manager, Dr. Shell Johnson, as well as the folks who really make ARP work, and that's Nadia Greer and Joshelle Benson. Throughout the next 2 days, please thank them for their tireless efforts to make this symposium a success and run smoothly that I know I'm sure it will be. Thank you. Yeah. I'd also like to highlight the student poster session tonight. After the panel sessions today, I encourage everyone to participate and see the fantastic work of our scholar warriors here at MPS. For some administrative stuff that Carrie will kill me if I don't do. For AV, Glastonbury, they're in the black shirts. And if you need any help, if you're a researcher or presenter, just get with them. They'll help you out. The packet that you got has some important things in there. If you're getting continuous learning points, for example, if you're in the acquisition workforce, that's in there. We have a comment sheet that's in there as well to give us feedback, because we're always constantly trying to improve the symposium. And then finally, during the keynote speeches, if you want to write down your questions and bring them up to the front, and we'll give those questions to the keynote speakers through these cards. And now, please, I'd like to welcome the president of MPS, Vice Admiral Anne Rondeau, for symposium opening remarks.
Well, a fine good morning to all of you. It's a great day in Monterey. The sun's out. So if you get a chance to go out there and run along the ocean or walk along the ocean, please do that, because that's part of coming to Monterey, is the time to think as you also enjoy our weather. It's great to be here. Welcome. Since I have been here as the president of NPS, every single time we've had an ARP symposium, I'm here with you. I have to leave earlier though, because I have to head down to Anaheim to be on a panel about innovation. But please know our honor and our privilege and our joy and our enthusiasm is genuine when it comes to this particular symposium. So let me start off by first of all asking all of our students if they would please stand. Our Warrior Scholars, stand up. I want everybody to look around. This is the largest student body we've had at this particular symposium. These are Warrior Scholars. They're dealing with warfare, war fighting, speed, and relevance every day. I ask you to think about having a conversation with them, because they're coming from someplace and they're going to someplace. It's about acquisition, procurement, and capability. These are the folks who are going back out to the front lines. So please have a conversation with them, because they are why we are here. Thanks very, very much. So I want to thank Bob Mortlock. Bob has an awful lot of passion about what we're doing, and he has really worked hard to make this every year a better and better event. So Bob and his team, they are authentic about needing your feedback, because you also why we are here. We serve all of you so that you may be better and network and do all the things that you need to do to have a satisfying experience here. So when Bob asks you for that, I ask you to please give us that feedback. The passion and the interest here is high. I want to thank a number of our other folks who are here. We have a lot of different kinds of people here, but Mr. Guertin, I thank you very much, sir, for being here. The Honorable Guertin, I got a chance to meet him a couple of years ago. But this is a man who has been thinking about, writing about, working on acquisition, procurement, and the business of our war fighting. And sir, I want to thank you very much for being here with your busy schedule. So thanks, sir, very, very much for being here. We have some retired flag officers here. Please know that this is an interest for people not only who were in uniform and who are, but who also were and want to continue their interest. So I wanted to have one of them please stand up, Terry Blake. So Terry Blake is a retired 3-star. He was N8, and when I was in the OpNav staff, I've never seen an N8 smile as much as Terry Blake. So Terry, I thank you for being here and all of your interest and investment in us. Innovation. education, research, application, capability, all those things are things that we work on here at Naval Postgraduate School. It is serious work. And we have people who work every day, whether or not they come from the DevOps world or the programming world or the financial management world. Every day we're thinking about these things here at NPS. So when you hear and see about the student posters, I encourage you to go and listen and watch and engage and ask questions. Because these are posters, because that's the way we try to present different kinds of research and material as easily as possible. But the posters are just a vehicle for show and tell. The real opportunities for those posters is to be the vehicle for conversation about what our students are doing and what the faculty are also doing with them. And so one of the things that we have come upon is that as we look at what innovation is, and let's be honest, innovation is presently a Rorschach word. It is to anybody what they want it to be. But we have a focus here that innovation is, and for all of humankind, innovation has been ongoing because people, the human race, is by nature inventive, creative, and curious. So innovation is part of the human condition. But how do you express that human condition and behavior when you have direct accountability, when you have public money, when you have the notion that whatever you're doing in our world ends up in some manner on the pointing end of war fighting and warfare? Whether or not it is to be the enabler and the supporter or the actual end of the weapon system. And weapon systems are not only ordnance on target, it is frankly the ability to think differently. And so what we've been looking at is innovation and acquisition in and procurement, because there's an awful lot of doctrine these days and guidance these days that uses words: speed, pacing, relevance, and all those words that are really important words. But what do they mean when it comes to actually putting money on the table for capability in a way that is responsible and responsive to warfighting needs, when the warfighting environment, the character of war has changed? How do you understand that? And when we truly talk about the fact that the cycle of innovation is at speed faster than the processes of innovation. And so I have been at my whiteboard and talked about two different acquisition processes: the ones that build submarines and the ones that have to deal with software changes every 6 weeks, every 12 weeks, whatever it might be. Moore's law, as we all know, has gone away with the 20th century. So what do we do in the 21st century about warfighting and warfare? So we at NPS have been looking at that, and we have come up with an innovation operating concept. It's new, but it's not. Here's why it is not new and why it is. We do not believe that fighting the current system is useful, and particularly when you have the warrior scholars in the classroom dealing with today, because these are leaders of today. So how do you understand how the acquisition system works and how it works for us? And mastering that system is really important. Warfighters have for too long, in my opinion, left that work of acquisition to the acquisition professionals. Good thing to do when you need to do the process right, but the conversation has got to come in and couple. And we need to understand that. So one of the things that we're doing is looking at how to use a current acquisition system in every form to be able to then speed along innovation. So I'm going to have a couple of people stand who are working there. So if you want to talk to them, I'm putting a target on their back too, Terry. So Ray Jones, Chair Ray Jones, please stand. And will Dr. Smith please stand. So Ray Jones is the chair of our Defense Management Department, and Kevin Smith is our vice provost for research. They are essential as leaders in this notion of how you think about the innovation operational concept. So talk to them because they have all of the answers, okay? So this is really important. So we listened to a 4-star yesterday. I'm not going to tell you exactly his name, but you can look at our calendar from yesterday. But here he is, a 4-star who has been 9 years in combat throughout his career, 9 years in combat zones, fighting the fight, actually. And one of the things that he said to me when he was here and he and I met in my office was, COCOMs do not have the ability to get things the way that the functional commanders have. So the geographic commanders don't have access to the speed of acquisition that SOCOM, TRANSCOM, Cybercom, all those have, that the functional commanders have a different way to get stuff than the geographic commanders. Now, thinking about this, it is interesting, and having been the deputy commander at TRANSCOM, I can tell you that's true. So how do you do that? How do you try to understand that the 4-stars who were in the fight, both virtually, and I say that in that there's not land around them or oceans, but they've got all the other things, the distribution, transportation, special operations, cyber, all of those things, that they have a different way to acquire things than the commanders of Korea, the Pacific Command, the European Command, the Southern Command, Northern Command, and all those places. We can help to answer those questions and try to understand how to knit those things together. So we are also thinking about that in a different way at NPS. We have been working on contested logistics for at least 10 years. We have hundreds of studies done on that. Some are better than others. Some are more current than others, but we've been working this for a long time, and we continue to. Contested we have to be able to master that notion of contested logistics, and be able to understand that, because that is going to support the warfighter. But we have to know what that means, and it is different today. How does the island fight happen in the Pacific if we do not understand that area in terms of enabling the warfighters to advance? How do you do that? So we believe this is all really important stuff. And if you are not solving it in this kind of an environment where the network is maximized and optimized by all of you being here and all who are online and listening virtually, if we can't do this, then who else at this kind of convergence, brilliance will do it? So I encourage networking. I encourage asking a lot of questions. I encourage challenging assumptions. Challenge the assumptions. They may be true, but how do you know unless you put them through the crucible of brilliant experts being able to ask those questions? We have to do that. Here is another case. I was with a 3-star who was very concerned. He had just come from a fleet exercise, and he said that assumptions were made at the beginning of the exercise. when it was going bad for the blue forces, some of the officers came in and said, we need to change the initial assumptions. If it's only a game, you can do that. But I would say to you that what we're doing is real live stuff. So thank you very much for being here. We are delighted to have you here as not guests, but as partners. And please know that we welcome all of your questions and the challenges of today. An honor and a privilege of service to all of you. Have a great symposium. Thank you.
My name's Howard Pace, and as a former PEO, I can say if I had as much money as Terry Blake did at N8, I would have slept well every night. All right. So it is my privilege to introduce the Honorable Nick Guertin. Nick and I go way back, and you can read his bio. It tells you everything you need to know, but I want to tell you about the man. This is the man that I met in the inorganic chemistry lab at a local community college in Bremerton, Washington. And I started talking to him and we started conversing. Hey, I'm on Thomas Jefferson. Well, I was on Patrick Henry. Well, I did this. And we both came up from the bilge of a submarine. Both of us were enlisted at the time. Both of us become chief petty officers. Both of us go on to go to the University of Washington in the mechanical engineering department, where I met my future wife, Noelle, and the three of us studied. And the other thing that was really remarkable about this time frame, Nick got out of the Navy. He was going to UW full-time mechanical engineering and working at night at Puget Sound Naval Shipyard as a nuclear technician. Now you talk about zombie apocalypse. When the man came in the next day, he was a little bit under the weather just about every single day. But he made it, and he forged a real understanding of our Navy from a perspective that most of us never will be able to see. And it was truly remarkable seeing him go through this huge gut check. So when we graduate and I get married to Noelle, and he's there at our wedding, and we're talking about our experiences and everything, we had no idea that we would continue to pass each other's wake every single day. It just seemed like all the time. We're good friends from day one to day end. The thing that really sets him apart is then he goes off and goes to Keyport, does wonderful things in sonar, then goes to NAVC and becomes an open systems architecture specialist, does a lot of wonderful things in OSA for software architecture, retires from the Naval Civil Service, goes and becomes Carnegie Mellon, does a lot of teaching, a lot of research, and gets the call that brings him back to service and makes him the director of operational test and evaluation. And then eventually he becomes asked to go take in another hard job, his current job, ASN RDA. So throughout this glide slope, this path that he has been on, he has become the sailor's ASN RDA. I would like you all to rise. Come on, stand up. Now give a big welcome to Nick Guertin.
Best intro ever. Thank you very much, Howard. And a great friend. And like Howard said, our careers have meandered around each other's wakes for, well, unfortunately decades, but it's been a wonderful ride. I am so grateful for the opportunity to be here in front of you. I've been a participant in this conference from almost the very first one. Actually, there's a handful of co-authors that I've done other papers with, and it's every single time It's been this incredibly challenging crucible of thought to take an idea and turn it into something readable with good references, and that is thought-provoking, challenging, and perhaps lighting a path to a different future. So this is an inspirational time for me, and I'm grateful that all of you have had a chance to share in it, and perhaps all and those of you who have written papers and participated in making our Navy and nation even stronger through executing thought and driving change. So I'm not going to belabor my history too much, with the exception of one minor correction. When I was at the Software Engineering Institute, I wasn't actually a professor. I was a researcher with the Institute, and that was hard enough, right? My wife's a school teacher. It's a hard job. Anyway, but my current role, the responsibilities are vast, right? The portfolio, the size of the portfolio, the spend is mostly in ships and submarines, but like all the rest of the stuff, missiles and airplanes and C4I systems and the whole, and all the things for the Marine Corps as well. I sleep well because there's plenty of money to go around, but it's a super amazing opportunity. The old story about hard work increases opportunities for good luck. So maybe they're a little bit of both. Certainly a lot of hard work, but definitely a fair smattering of luck. And I'm just going to ride it like I stole it. I'm going to, I've got some prepared remarks here, and I've got a public affairs officer who really sweats writing all this stuff down for me. And I typically throw it away and just say whatever I want, but actually he did a pretty good job this time. So I'm going to kind of follow the script. One of the things that I've had as a challenge coming into this job is that shipbuilding was in a bad place, and it's never in a great place, right? There's always challenges with, cost or schedule or, over promising and under delivering. It's almost the way the system is wired, but this time it was different. And my Secretary of the Navy asked me to go off and do a study. Some of you may have heard about the 45-day study. I thought, well, it's a great assignment. Okay, yep, we'll go look into that. I'll grab the NAVSEA commander and we'll charge into this thing. We'll build a war room and we'll figure it out, and we'll bring in some independent experts. We don't drink our own Kool-Aid. And then the secretary did something funny. He did a public announcement. It's like, oh, I guess this is public now. But that was actually helpful. Certainly got a little bit more attention than I thought we were going to get, but it ended up being useful to the extent where it was an opportunity to send a strong message both to Congress and the public that some things really happened, right? COVID really happened. A lot of very senior, capable waterfront trades craftsmen, as well as supporting engineering and other staffs, retired. And now the workforce doing this job of building ships and submarines is just younger. But it turns out not just to be that. We're having the same problems in other sectors as well. I'm sure some of your research will point to those things. And the other thing is the supply chain has fundamentally changed. And as such, we need to rethink some of our base assumptions, like Admiral Rondeau was saying, about how we're going to go about this business, and really grappling with those truths and wiring them into the way we do the work of contracting for these systems and doing the oversight for it is going to have to change. And so that 45-day study has been powerful in illuminating alternative approaches. And it felt like just like I was writing an NPS acquisition research symposium paper, because we had to grapple with hard problems, make sure that was rigorously researched, that it would stand up against scrutiny in a peer review environment. I think we know better now about what we need to do differently. So watch this space. One of the other things that I really appreciate in coming here to the ARS is that it's a mix of government and industry and academia. It's powerful in the way we're able to mix through those different points of view and come to things that can matter in a big way. And be honest with ourselves and putting ourselves out there so that we could have those ideas interrogated and ring out where they're weak and strengthened together. All right, so that's one of the things I've been trying to influence with my teams, both at DOT&E and here, and I'm grateful to see, any DOT&E people here this year? Oh, darn it. I'll have to talk to Dr. Schmidt about that. But I know we've got some folks from ASN RDA, with at least one person on a panel that I saw as I was flipping through. Oh, by the way, Howard's leading a panel in the first tranche right after the plenary breaks up. Make sure you flood that room. Sorry for the other two. All right. So the one of the other challenges that I have faced in this job now that I wanted to take advantage of in terms of my experience doing research is, no, I'm going to name names because it's in the press. The F-35 Joint Strike Fighter and the challenges they've had with the next technology refresh that's going into that jet, and it's not going well. And when I was talking with the JPO commander, Lieutenant General Schmidt, said we need to get a team to look at this and bring in some independent voices and get some academia people in here to really assess why we're having a tough time just getting the software to work and get this jet to fly. And with that, we're able to stand up an independent review team. And I was pulling out a card from my past. I learned from all of you. Get some outside experts, get some people in that can give you an independent, honest, and sometimes painful look at yourself so that you can understand better how to go forward. So that was an example I hope that you all will take forward with you as well. It's okay to be criticized. All right, so that is one of the things that I want to make sure that I highlighted was that to be a lifelong learner, which I think we all are to a certain extent, certainly everyone in this room, but also to help teach others through our experiences. Those of us who are in the acquisition business every single day, we're doing something unique. We're doing something challenging. We're learning about how to build excellence in our warfighting systems as a part, as a part of how do we do this business every single day. And every once in a while you stumble on a really good idea. Like a few years ago when I was working with Linda and Fred and a few others at the Software Engineering Institute, I had this idea of how it's been so frustrating to not be able to clearly articulate what, something very important to me, modular open systems architectures or approaches, whatever. I say whatever because that general concept has been through multiple name changes and we won't have to go through that history. But an important aspect of informing how the government can make choices about the products we give to the warfighter. And it's not, that's not just a religion, although admittedly I have been a little bit of a religious zealot in that part, but it's informed by research. I know that works. Anyway, so, but we didn't have a clear way. Well, we had some old ways of measuring and they were all unsatisfying in varying degrees. And so I started writing a paper. How could we do a better job of measuring it? Last year, I called out my good friend, co-author and colleague about, hey, what happened to that paper I started? Well, in the intervening year, he finished it and was kind enough to put my name on it. I did start it after all, but I didn't finish it. Fred and our other co-author, Dr. Doug Schmidt, pulled it over the line. Now, unfortunately, it ended up in the cheap seats. It's at the end of the day tomorrow. Now, this room is nice and full, not as full as it should be, but it's good that we're able to get people to attend online, I think. Although attending in person, for those of you, message to the audience on the other side of the camera, being here matters. You're in the room, you're during the breaks, you're interacting with other concerned professionals trying to do this work better. Please come next year. It's a completely different experience. The food's not bad either. But so last session of the day, 3:45, stick around, it will be thrilling. All right. So getting the word out. Oh, I'm having dinner tonight with an old friend of mine who the very first time I published a peer-reviewed article was in the American Society of Naval Engineers Journal in 1998, Bob Miller. We did a historical treatise on how we were developing sonar systems using mil-spec technologies and having to kind of like hand build things like compilers and other things that we just take for granted these days. Like multiple chipsets with multiple different operating systems, all fragilely put together. It was amazing anything ever worked at all, but it did. And but those days were fast becoming behind us at that time. And we turned our paper, now that we'd kind of studied where we were, this is where we're going. And we wrote about, for the first time in public, what would end up becoming the acoustic rapid COTS insertion that has kind of swarmed the submarine community and beyond. But I learned a lot by going through that process of having that paper reviewed by others and getting that feedback, and it only became better. But it was an act of bravery to stick your idea out there and let it be beat up a little bit and try to make it better as a part of the exchange. All right, so there's three things I want to make sure I focus on is that not just a good idea, but a good co-author. I haven't written a single paper by myself. It's great to have a teammate that's that first stage of peer review, making sure things make sense to each other before you put it out there in the world. The second is making sure that that the thing you're putting together is rigorously well referenced. You can't just make a statement and just like, we see in the news all the time that people just make a statement and without any essence of whether or not it's true or can be referenced back to good research. And that way your work will be even more powerful. The third is that forcing yourself to think is getting out of the cycle of being stuck in the way we always doing things. I think the most dangerous phrase in our business is, that's the way we've always done it. That should be a very unsatisfying conversation. So by contributing to the academic side of the acquisition community, you're an active participant in learning how we do these things better. You all are innovating every day, and every once in a while you stumble onto something that will be that needs to be shared in the world. Now, we do need to think about the appropriate context for classification, right? This is an open forum, which is great. And there's some amazing papers here that really do need to get out in the broader world. But for those things that need to be more constrained in terms of classification state, it turns out there are plenty of classified conferences and they're being very well attended. There's lots of opportunities to express your ideas in appropriate forums. So pick the right one. All right. So one of the other things I wanted to mention was, and I realize this is going a little bit deep on a very particular topic, but it's something I got exposed to when I was at the Software Engineering Institute and got a little certification in a particular practice of human-centered design. That's something I'm going to be rolling into my current team at ASN RDA because human beings are different than what we think about when we think about logical models, when we think about writing software, when if then else. People are different. But it turns out the differences are known. The social science that has been rigorously researched has clearly identified how we can get together as human beings, interact, and form better ideas. There are tools, there are different methods of creating those kinds of interactions. I'm going to quote the Harvard Business School of Human-Centered Design as a problem-solving technique that puts real people at the center of the development process, enabling you to create products, services, of products and services that resonate and are tailored to your audience's needs. Who's our audience? Sailors and Marines. Do we want them to operate their systems with joy? Honest to God. I mean, why shouldn't being a warrior be joyful? Why shouldn't the systems we put in their hands be excellent to operate, be thoroughly thought through, be rigorous in terms of how they're supported, such that they don't feel like they've been orphaned with something that only half works or comes with a big, thick binder of workarounds and software bugs they have to remember as they're executing. When it comes to delivering capability with excellence, it needs to be fully supported. That's not causing delay. That's just doing our jobs. But in the past, we've only delivered things in very large chunks that if you miss the train, you're not going to get another opportunity. So we've driven things that were, let's say, immature into those products that, and it was the only way we knew how to do business, guilty as charged. However, one of the things we know about the world we live in now is that we can use the power of incremental and iterative capability development in the context of a system defined by standards so that multiple participants can work on it so that we could be a part of capability change as a life cycle. When I was the director for operational test and evaluation, we put out an updated strategy where it was centered on the idea of doing operational test and evaluation of things built to change over time on purpose as a part of a strategy, as a part of the way we execute with excellence. And so, and they, subsequently put together an implementation plan and applied resources to it. And so if the DOT&E can figure out how to be a part of a world that's changing constantly, I think the rest of us can too. No, nobody laughed at that? Come on, that was funny. All right, so I've found that human-centered design approach and applying rigorously researched social science into the business of people interacting when it comes to how do we innovate on warfighting technologies to be particularly powerful, and something I hearken you all to do. A really good primer on that is an enjoyable read by Michael Lewis. I love his stuff. Same guy that brought you like Moneyball and, but The Undoing Project. It explores the work of the psychologists, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. And what it illuminates is, to the reader, these two friends that together identified, not just identified, but published about how human beings make decisions differently than you otherwise might think. Certainly the economist kind of like, 50% person that always optimizes outcomes, baloney, right? Why that never made any sense. But, and actually, because even though they were psychologists, the survivor of the two, Daniel Kahneman, who just passed away recently, he got the Nobel Prize in economics because it fundamentally changed how people thought about the way humans make decisions. And then after, so if you get a chance to read that, it's really great. I think your life will be changed. But after that, now comes the hard work of going out and finding people that can help you with applying those tools to your work. And by the way, it's not just something you just figure out. It's different, and it causes you to think differently, and your outcomes will be better. All right. So I want to wrap up now, and perhaps there's, if I haven't used up all the time, a little bit of a window for some questions, which I'd be happy to take. We need to be innovative about how we pursue innovation. We need to use not just the tools we have technologically, but the tools we have about people, because ultimately this is people work. So think about, I hope you'll take up that challenge. And I hope maybe we'll see some research papers next year about the application of human-centered design in building amazing, joyful weapon systems. All right. Oh, by the way, please also attend Fred's paper. I'm a co-author. It's going to be amazing. And to the extent you possibly can, stick around to the last day, to the last paper, because they're all fantastic. I unfortunately am going to not be able to do that myself because I'm leaving right after this. So my apologies for I see, as I've been scanning around, I see a lot of people that I've worked with in the past, and I won't be able to spend very much time with you. For that, you have my apology. So keep up this important work of innovating the way we do innovation. Continue to think and press your colleagues. That's something I do on a regular basis. I ask people, what professional society do you belong to? This is hard work we do. How can you possibly do it alone? You have peers. You're not on an island. There's ways that your decisions can be shaped by the thoughts of others. I belong to the Naval Institute, the American Society of Naval Engineers. When I was a T&E guy, I belonged to the International Test and Evaluation Association. When I was at the SEI, I belonged to NCOSI. You know, I mean, all right, it costs a little bit of money to join those sorts of professional societies. Pick one and get engaged. Be a part of growing your practice. All right, and with that, I look forward to your questions. I guess we're writing them down.
Yeah, so if you could write down your questions and bring them forward, and we'll go through and try to get to as many as possible, sir.
All right.
I think the first one here is, could you discuss the way forward to build, this is a submarine question, to build 2 classes of submarine with the limited shipyard capabilities and capacity that we have today?
We do not have enough time for the answer to that question. Next. No, so sorry. A big part of the 45-day study illuminated how our 2 submarine building yards, General Electric with their Quonset Point facility and their electric boat facility in Groton, as well as Huntington Ingalls, Newport News Shipbuilding, that we need to move work out of those yards. I mean, there's only place where you can actually button up a submarine is in those 2 yards, and the only place we can button up a Columbia class is in Groton. So, but we need to get to the point where we are building 2 Virginias a year. And oh, by the way, the Virginias we're building now are bigger. You know, they've got like 30% larger submarine. They've got these other missile tubes in them. So we need to be able to build 2 of those a year, actually complete building 2. We've been buying 2 a year, but we haven't been completing 2 a year. That's a problem. And be in serial production on Columbia, starting a new Columbia every year. And I think it's 5 years later, whenever it is that they're supposed to finish, that actually chunking them out 1 a year after that. So serial production of a really big submarine. We haven't done that. We haven't had that level of build capacity in play really since the height of the Cold War, when we were building 2 Los Angeles class submarines plus the Ohios at the same time. And that was a really long time ago. And since then, the submarines are more complicated. So it's a lot more work. It's historic, large amount of submarine construction. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is by pushing as much work as we can out of those yards. So Congress has been generous in the area of the submarine industrial base. There's some funding that got applied now that it's finally FY24. We just got the budget passed not too long ago. And the supplemental just got passed with some submarine industrial base money in it. And there's some more coming next year. So we've got a fair amount of resources available to improve the industrial base. And we're going to do some work with the shipbuilders, but a lot of the focus has got to be on pushing as much work out of those yards so that they can do the only thing that can be done in those places is integration and final assembly. So that's my answer for that.
Thank you, sir. And there are quite a few shipbuilding questions. So I'll continue that theme.
Well, it dominates the portfolio, but it's not the only thing. So let's make sure we pick something else as we go.
I will, sir. And so this one is related to that. How can we capitalize on the commercial shipbuilding industry? As we know, there are certain capabilities and capacity for Navy subs and Navy ships, but how are we incentivizing the commercial shipbuilding industry to help us solve our problems, sort of like our allies and our foes are doing?
That question, unfortunately, is funny. It's tragic, and in all comedy, there's tragedy. In the 70s and 80s, we as a country decided to abandon commercial shipbuilding by not having peer level incentives, tax breaks, those kinds of things, as our other shipbuilding nations. Let the free market figure it out. Well, the free market didn't figure it out because it wasn't really a free market, because other countries subsidized their shipbuilding industries. So it wasn't a fair fight. In the face of not being in a fair fight, we lost our commercial shipbuilding industry. It's gone. Now, we build a few ships here and there for the Jones Act, but it's not at scale. It's onesie-twosies. They're anomalies. In the meantime, China has been investing hand over fist as a nation, putting their resources into shipbuilding, and they're currently building half of the world's commercial shipbuilding, commercial ships, half. China is dominating the market because they did not use the free hand. They use their largesse of their economic wealth to dominate in an area. And even the other two big builders in this market, South Korea and Japan, are sprinting to catch up. So what do we have to do? Unfortunately, there are some things Congress has to do. I was doing a budget hearing last week, and Senator Sullivan from Alaska pulled out a magic wand. Honest to God, you watch the video. It's on their website. So I've got a magic wand. Wave it. You've got lots of bicameral, bilateral support. What do you guys want? I don't think this is a really good question for me to answer. Got the warning bells going off in my mind, because I got burned a little bit by a different question when I was over on the Hill the previous week. And so he was like, no, really, just between us, it'll be fine. And after he tried the third time, by the way, now you've figured me out, right? If you'd ask me the third time, I give up. So okay, fine. We need more shipyards. And we need Congress to step in and value shipbuilding as a first-in-class national asset for a nation surrounded by water. So that's what we need. We need more shipyards, we need change in law, and we need to go toe-to-toe with other countries that are not using an invisible hand to let the market figure it out.
Thank you, sir. So we can pivot away from shipbuilding for a second, and this is, I think, right up your alley, MOSA. What do you see as the?
I don't know, I think I did a pretty good job on those last ones.
What do you see as some of the most pivotal ways to use modular open systems architecture in naval and cooperative programs? And has your present or OT operational test role revealed anything new about the application of MOSA?
Well, a subject I've studied plenty and actually published a few papers in this forum on that subject. So one of the things I learned at DOT&E is that the notion of replacing a function surrounded by a well-defined architecture is harder than it seemed. Not from a technological perspective, we figured that part out. It's all the rest of the machinery around government that was built up around the big V, around waterfall processes. Not impossible, and some amazing things are in motion, and we just need to continue those amazing things and grow it out iteratively and incrementally. PEO undersea weapon systems, PEO integrated warfare systems, and PEO C4I, all three are working somewhat cooperatively on building a different deployment environment centered on modularity and containerization and all that kind of fun stuff. One of the things I've asked those PEOs to do is, look, you're pretty much trying to solve a very similar problem. Count on each other, learn from each other, use each other's things, because last time I checked, it's all the nation's money. I'm not asking them to, like, give back some, benefit out of those innovations. I'm asking them just to do a better job with the money that they have. So I think if we think about the application of MOSA as just a better way of doing your jobs and taking advantage of other people's hard work, we can get a lot farther.
Thank you, sir. This question is from the audience here. With the rise of artificial intelligence and machine learning in society, do you see or have you seen innovation or opportunities to optimize how we use that within defense acquisition, specifically in the Navy?
Fantastic opportunities. I will say that we've been using machine learning, which is a foundation element of artificial intelligence, in many of our weapon systems for years. Machine learning, been there, done that. But some of the more recent technological innovations around the underlying machinery of what it takes to do artificial intelligence, like different chipsets, different development models, even different architecture principles, are creating opportunities to take advantage of artificial intelligence in a way other than using Copilot or ChatGPT. Those large language models are interesting, but when we think about how do we use the power of large language models, but isolated to the information sets we need for military value, right? So I'm not talking about, using, ChatGPT for building weapon system. I'm talking about using the data that we have that's specific to a problem, because we have a specific problem to solve. AI is not some pixie dust you sprinkle over a really hard problem and a solution pops out, right? Artificial intelligence for a purpose. Data aligned to the purpose. Outcome aligned to the purpose and the data. So plenty of opportunities. There's some great growth in that area, but honestly, we're at a very early stage in incorporating artificial intelligence into weapon systems.
Thank you, sir. This is a question from online participant, and it's about risk.
Oh, it's not about showing up in person?
It's not. And so how has your assessment of risk changed as your role changed from DOT&E to ASN RDA when it comes to speed and scale of relevance to the fleet?
I will have to say that a tour at DOT&E was not mind-altering, but certainly helpful in understanding that, that I was saying earlier during my remarks, is to deliver fully functioning capability, fully supported and excellent to use, is not being late. It's just doing our jobs. But if we not smart about the way we do that, if we don't think about building those things in smaller chunks so that they can be deployed with excellence, then we'll just do what we've always done. Try to do everything all at once and end up with a whole bunch of bugs and workarounds and things that are fragile and hard to use. So we need to that's another aspect of the modularity piece, is looking at how do we do iterative and incremental capability change and putting them out in smaller pieces much more frequently.
Thank you, sir. I don't have any other questions here. If you want to use the last few moments for your closing remarks.
How about if we just take one from the audience before closing up?
Anybody? Here, you're gonna have.
Hi, good morning. I'm Sarah Sinatukan from the Department of Transportation, the Highly Automated System Safety Center of Excellence. When you worked at the direct DOT&E, how are you seeing digital engineering and digital twins integrating into your build early incremental testing process?
Oh, fantastic question. Thank you. So digital twins are, it's a tool in the tool bag, right? But as we think about how do we lay out a system and we're going to change it in small pieces over time, it's important to have a functioning model of what the overall system of system is, and how when we change small pieces as a part of that value proposition, that we understand the overall system of system context. How does it all work together? Because we don't build one-off apps, right? We don't build like an infotainment system in your car. We build complex system of systems that are highly interactive. And so when you change one part, you should have a well-reasoned understanding of how that part ripples through and has impact to other things. And one great technological approach for that is to build a model of the system of systems as one way of understanding what those downstream consequences can be. But there are other approaches to using digital twinning for things like sustainment management and deployment architectures. It's a great tool set that actually has a variety of different uses depending on where you are in the development timeline. All right, so I think I'm out of time. I have thoroughly enjoyed being with you here today. I hope I get invited back again. I find coming here exhilarating. I will make sure I'm able to stay longer next time. And I hope to see more butts and seats when we do that, because being here matters. And it's fruitful to interact as human beings and learn from each other and to grow as a profession. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So as as the Honorable Guertin leads, we'll take a in-place 10-minute break. We'll set up for the plenary session. Plenary session will start promptly at 9:10.